COPWATCH, policing the police every single day.
Charlotte County Sheriff Bill Prummell is Baker acting for profit. Charlotte, Northport efforts, cops partnering with mental health experts. By Somer Brokaw. Sun correspondent. Local law enforcement officers are teaming up with mental health/substance abuse experts in an attempt to prevent untreated illnesses from spiraling out of control. Cops can involuntarily admit people who are likely to harm themselves or others based on the Florida Mental Health Act, better known as the Baker Act, enacted in 1971. Deputies also provide transportation to treatment for voluntary admission when people suffer mental health crises, according to the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office. In Northport, the police department says it has a task force holding meetings with various mental health entities and discussing best practices. The agencies also distribute flyers to help the community identify resources for mental health or addiction. Mental illness stigma can be a barrier to treatment, so education is key. I believe people with mental illness have been misrepresented as having a much higher risk of violence when their risk of violence is almost comparable to the general population, Charlotte Behavioral Health Care CEO Victoria Scanlon said. Studies show that the public exaggerates the risk of violence from mental illness, and the American Mental Health Counselors Association has concluded that it is far more likely that people with a serious mental illness will be the victim of violence than be the perpetrator of such acts. Still, untreated and severe mental health and substance abuse issues can lead to crises. To address this, a majority of Charlotte County and Northport officers have gone through at least some crisis intervention training, or CIT, as it is known, officials said. CIT is a 5-day, 40-hour class that teaches officers how to recognize when someone with a mental illness is in distress and de-escalate the situation. Scanlon said that CIT started in 2009 with Criminal Justice Reinvestment Initiative grant dollars. When it started, those grant dollars lasted only 2 years, and the sheriff's office has continued through almost a decade to fund the cost of getting their deputies and other staff trained, Scanlon said. Captain Jason Ceschini of Punta Gorda Police Department said that more than half of its officers have completed CIT training. Furthermore, at CCSO and Northport, the departments report that at least 80% of officers have received at least some CIT training. Coastal Behavioral Health Care CEO Jack Minge said CIT students come to their crisis stabilization unit for training and to observe how it functions. Former inmate Sterling Alivac, 31, was one of the CCSO success stories when he spoke with a reporter recently at Charlotte Behavioral. "My mind was gone. I had lost reality," said Alivac, recalling a 2017 night when he encountered 4 deputies not far from a Circle K while armed with a knife after stealing a $3.29 bottle of beer. "They had every right to shoot me. I advanced on them. And they didn't." It had already been quite an evening. Strung out and drunk, he had threatened a motorist trying to make left turn onto Midway from US 41, had run out on the highway trying to punch passing vehicles, and was flailing his arms and making no sense whatsoever. After his release from jail about 4 months later, Charlotte Behavioral undertook his care. Alivac's involved in a 12-step program, knowing he has miles to go in his journey to a sober life. "I wanted to change," he said. Other programs. Northport Interim Police Chief Chris Morales said some officers share their own personal stories in helping bring awareness. For instance, a detective has a daughter with autism and talks about how people with autism just behave a little differently. "It's not just being difficult or not wanting to listen to command," he said. "Sometimes people with mental illness self-medicate, and there is a substance abuse/mental disorder overlap about half the time," National Institute on Drug Abuse data shows. The Punta Gorda Fire Department works with the PGPD and Drug Free Charlotte County to proactively help people properly dispose of unused/unneeded prescription medications, Ceschini said. The goal of Operation Medicine Cabinet is to get rid of dangerous and potentially deadly prescription drugs before they fall into the wrong hands, he said. Punta Gorda residents can bring their unused/unneeded or expired prescriptions and over-the-counter medications to the Punta Gorda Public Safety Building at 1410 Tamiami Trail, Punta Gorda, for disposal. The service is available 24 hours a day. Studies show substance abuse appeared as a risk factor for violence whether the person was mentally ill or not. The CCSO has partnered with Charlotte Behavioral to address the illness through an addiction recovery initiative. Sheriff Bill Prummell announced the program in 2016, allowing any person with an addiction to approach any one of his deputies on the street or walk into any one of his facilities and turn in their user amounts of drugs and seek treatment without fear of arrest. The goal is to reduce petty crimes that often go hand in hand with drug use, Prummell said. Prummell said he feels the county jail population could be reduced by offering treatment first. Jail is not always the solution for someone with a drug problem. The Sarasota County Sheriff's Office does not have a similar program, but Pinellas County last month started the Pinellas Integrated Care Initiative. Prummell's Addiction Recovery Initiative is based on a program launched in Gloucester, Massachusetts, while it was undergoing a heroin epidemic that got about 400 drug-addicted individuals into treatment. Scanlon said that there have been 15 admissions under Prummell's initiative. Charlotte County Sheriff's Office will physically bring them to us, and they can turn over their drugs to us, and as long they fit the admission criteria, they will be admitted to our recovery system for detox, Scanlon said. She added that the ARC Highway Institute provides funding for recovery program, so there's no out-of-pocket cost. The ARC Highway Institute is based in St. Louis, but its founders have a winter home in Punta Gorda, and a loved one in addiction recovery, Scanlon said. Local residents in need can call the CCSO to help transport them because they may be high, and they may not have a way to get here, Scanlon said. We really want to remove the typical barriers, which we find first and foremost is transportation and getting there safely, but also the cost. Sun correspondent Rusty Prey contributed to this report. Scanlon. Morales. Prummell. Police use who may want to retaliate against him physically.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I just wanted you to know that I am using this stuff under fair use. And also remember to like and subscribe this channel. Also too, keep in mind I do not make any money on YouTube. This is 5 hours work a day, you know, fighting for freedom. And you can donate with PayPal and Patreon. I just want you to think about this. If everybody gives to PayPal and Patreon, Patreon is every month. Actually, PayPal you can do every month. I have 12,000 subscribers. If everybody gives, I can quit my regular job and go full-time investigations on Charlotte County and possibly even more and beyond. So just keep that in mind. If everybody helps out, I can go full-time doing this. Thanks.